Land Rover builds the most versatile vehicles in the world, designed and engineered to operate in the toughest conditions. Across the Land Rover model range, different electronic and mechanical systems are provided to help you control the vehicle, both on and off-road. The equipment illustrated in the driving scenarios here may not necessarily be featured on your own vehicle. Before tackling any obstacle, it's important to set up your vehicle correctly, taking the ground conditions into account. Depending on the Land Rover model, you'll have a range of controls available to help make your progress easier and safer. Terrain response should be set to the right program for the driving environment, which will automatically optimize the vehicle systems for the terrain. If you have a manually operated differential lock, it should be used when traveling on slippery ground. A light on the dashboard will show when the system is engaged. Where you need greater low-speed control, select low range on the transmission. In our driving scenarios, an icon in the corner of the screen indicates the recommended range, high or low, and suggested gear choice. When driving off-road, you should use the foot brake, not the parking brake, when controlling the vehicle, even on slopes. This allows you to keep both hands on the wheel and provides greater braking power. In automatic vehicles, use the left foot on the brake when pulling away if necessary. Adjustable suspension should be raised to off-road height where appropriate to increase ground clearance. Ensure hill descent control, HDC, is engaged whenever you're going down a hill, except when you're driving on sand. The basic principle of off-road driving is that you should drive as slowly as possible, but as fast as necessary. Always be aware of the environment around you and follow Land Rover's code for responsible driving. Available at LandRoverExperience.com. When driving on open ground, following a few simple guidelines will help you make progress while minimizing damage to the terrain. If there are no established tracks on the ground, try not to follow the tire marks of previous vehicles, as this can eventually cause unwanted tracks or ruts. However, if tracks have already formed, it's best to stick to them. On wet grass or other slippery surfaces, selecting grass, gravel, snow on terrain response, engaging the manual differential lock, selecting a higher gear and applying smooth and gentle pressure on the accelerator will reduce the risk of wheel spin. Spinning wheels will impede your progress and damage the ground. Remember that first gear in high range is roughly equivalent to third gear in low. If you're climbing or descending hills on open ground, drive straight up or down the hill and not at an angle. This will help keep the vehicle as stable as possible. When you return to the road, remember to reset your vehicle's controls. Reinflate the tyres if pressures were lowered while off-road. Return terrain response to the general program setting. This will automatically adjust the vehicle's computerized systems for road driving. Select high range and reset the air suspension to normal road height. Although if you do forget, it will lower automatically when the vehicle speeds up. Disengage the manual differential lock, making sure the warning light has gone out. And make sure your lights, license plates, windows and mirrors are clean of any dirt. Articulation describes the amount of a vehicle's vertical wheel travel. All Land Rover vehicles have excellent articulation, which means their wheels can be kept firmly in contact with the ground for longer, delivering maximum grip when driving over undulating terrain. When driving in these conditions, keep your speed down by staying in a low gear and use the brakes gently when needed. If your vehicle is fitted with a manual differential lock, ensure it's engaged before driving on this terrain. Be aware of your ground clearance at all times, if possible raising the air suspension to help ensure you avoid grounding the vehicle. You will find that the traction control is likely to operate in these conditions. When it activates, the way to get the most benefit is to maintain or increase the throttle slightly, allowing drive to be diverted to wheels that have the best grip. Land Rover models that feature air suspension are also equipped with crosslink valves. These channel air to the suspension unit of unladen wheels, so keeping them in contact with the ground for as long as possible. Dynamic Stability Control, DSC, is a feature on some Land Rover models that helps maintain directional control in slippery conditions. Turning off DSC and entering a corner too fast, or applying the throttle too sharply can risk the vehicle sliding into a skid, as demonstrated here. Now we see the vehicle entering the corner with DSC engaged. Although full throttle has been used in both these examples, this time the system automatically limits the throttle and applies braking force to each wheel individually to keep the vehicle under control. Consult your owner's handbook for other conditions where it's useful to turn DSC off. When ascending a steep hill, you need sufficient amounts of both traction and momentum if you're going to make it to the top. Before you start the climb, be aware of your vehicle's approach, ramp and departure angles. Remember that if you have a tow bar fitted, your departure angle will be reduced. Insufficient traction will provoke wheel spin, making it more difficult to complete the climb. Similarly, if you do not have enough vehicle momentum, you risk stalling the engine. If you do stall, don't worry. If you're in a manual transmission Land Rover with low range, hold the vehicle on the foot brake, select reverse gear, release the clutch and then the brake pedal, and then restart the engine in gear. This means you will have the benefit of engine braking to help control the vehicle as soon as you start to move, reducing the risk of sliding backwards down the slope. Attempting the climb in a lower gear will reduce the chances of stalling, but you should always try to take the slope in the highest practical gear. This is because higher gears reduce the chances of wheel spin and so increase traction. As traction is so important when climbing a hill, you may find the electronic traction control system coming into operation. The way to make the best use of this is to increase your engine speed slightly and wait for the drive to be directed automatically to the wheels with the most grip. Before you embark on a steep descent, give yourself space and time to prepare your vehicle and select your course. Stop at least a vehicle's length from the start of the hill to set up the controls. If you do not have a clear view of the slope from the driver's seat, get out of the vehicle to check the route ahead. As a general rule, select the lowest possible gear when descending to gain the maximum benefit of engine braking. Hill descent control should also be activated if fitted. Hill Descent Control, HDC, is a Land Rover innovation. It uses a system of sensors that monitors the speed of each wheel. Should it detect any risk of the vehicle moving too fast, it will automatically apply precise braking with no risk of the wheels locking. Using the foot brake in the normal way when descending a slippery hill can sometimes cause the wheels to lock and the car to slide forwards out of control. Don't be afraid of using the brakes if you have to, but remember that when you press the brake pedal, the HDC system is overridden. Trust your Land Rover, you're in safe hands.